Australia's most popular sport, Aussie rules football. But what is this wacky and wild sport where men in short shorts and singlets run around an oval shaped field trying to kick a pigskin ball through a couple posts? Well, before we get into that, this is the Sunday Sesh, and I'm your host, Jesse. If you're a real one, I would appreciate you if you could hit that like and subscribe button. Alright, let's get right into it, cobber. This crazy Australian sport shares the same name as other sports around the world, with it being widely referred to as football. But unlike those other sports that go by this name, Aussie rules does not require any padding or helmets, while still remaining a full contact sport. If you tune into a random game of football, you may be absolutely confused by what's happening on your screen. So I'll try to give you a quick overview of the basic rules and how the game works. I don't want to overload you with all the rules all at once, so let's start with the basics. Every game has 2 teams with 18 players on each team, not including the bench players, however. Every game starts with a jump ball, similar to basketball. Like every other sport, the aim is to outscore your opponent. But how you do this, you might ask? Well, it's simple, by kicking the ball between the 2 large posts at the end of the field, which will reward your team with 6 points. But what if you miss the goals, you might ask? And unlike other sports, you'll still be rewarded with a single point if you kick the ball between the posts on the outside of these 2 large posts. Now we've sorted out how you win the game, let's go over some of the rules that make this game differ from other sports. First of all, while like other sports you can kick a ball to your teammates, you can't just throw it to your teammates. You must instead do this unique thing called a handball, in which you can hold the ball in your offhand and hit it towards your teammates with your dominant hand. If you choose to handball instead of kick the ball to your teammates, you would lose a major advantage, however, known as a mark. A mark is when you catch a ball that is kicked to you, which earns the catching player a free kick, which allows them to have a brief period of time where they can't be tackled or interrupted by the opposing team. Unlike other sports, like American football, where a player can run forever without any consequences, in Aussie rules football, a player is required to bounce the ball every 15 metres that they run. But just like basketball and travelling, this rule is loosely enforced at best. You might be wondering how tackling works in this great game. Well, if a player is tackled, the referee has to make a decision on if the player had prior opportunity to get rid of the ball or not. If the player had a chance to get rid of the ball, but didn't, and decided to take on the tackler instead, he will be penalised with a free kick awarded against him. This is some of the most hyped moments in the game. On the other hand, if a player doesn't have prior opportunity to get rid of the ball before getting tackled, it's a ball up where the tackle occurred. This is similar to basketball again. Any sport created, once it becomes popular enough, eventually forms its own league to house competition between organised teams. Think the NFL, NBA, or even the EPL. Aussie rules football is no different, forming its own league in 1896, known as the VFL, the Victorian Football League. However, this name would eventually be changed when more teams from around Australia joined the league in the 1980s. They eventually changed the name of the league to the AFL, the Australian Football League. To this day, the AFL stands at the top of the hill, with it being the premier Aussie rules football league. The AFL currently has 18 teams across the country who play 23 games in a regular season. After the regular season, the top 8 teams are put into a championship bracket to battle it out for the prestigious Premiership Cup. This championship bracket is on the more confusing side when it comes to brackets. Hopefully there should be a picture up on the screen of the most recent bracket. The top 4 seeded teams of the bracket play each other to determine who gets a bye round in the following week. Meanwhile, the bottom 4 seeded teams of the bracket play each other with 2 teams going home. The 2 winners of the bottom 8 and the 2 losers of the top 4 play each other in a knockout round. The winners of these games will then proceed to play the teams who had a bye round in the previous week. Then finally, the 2 winning teams will go on to play each other in the AFL Grand Final for the honour to hoist the trophy at the end. Now we've come to understand how the sport is played and learned about the competition side of the sport, but we have yet to really get to the bottom of how the sport rose to popularity and how it maintains its stranglehold on the hearts of everyday Australians. It all starts with the simplicity of kicking a ball through some big uprights and not needing major amounts of equipment, allowing everybody to get into the sport. Aussie rules football is one of the most inclusive sports in the world, with kids from all different backgrounds coming together for the love of the game. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, or what culture you come from. All are welcome in this great sport. This can be seen at the highest levels, with star players of different backgrounds, for example, like Zach Tui, who comes from an Irish background, Anthony Tipungwuti, who comes from the Tiwi Islands off the coast of Darwin. Probably messed up the pronunciation of those. And not to forget, representing the great US of A, Mason Cox, who plays for Collingwood, manning the middle. I hope you've learned a little bit about our amazing sport. And if you're interested in the sport, maybe even check out some highlights like best marks or biggest hits. That will get you more pumped up than a couple lines in a dodgy nightclub bathroom. Now, if you've enjoyed today's video, please hit that like and subscribe button. This has been Jesse with the Sunday Sesh. Now, peace.